In today's video, we're going to be hitting up some of my favorite thrift spots and grabbing some $5 and under items to give you some inspiration to create decor for your home. People, now at first glance, I thought this was a wood wall decor plate, but it's not. It's actually made out of MDF and there's no hanger on the back. But for $3.99, I knew I was going to be able to turn this into some wall decor. So first, we're going to need to give it a little bit of love and clean this sucker up and remove the tag first, of course. For the centerpiece, I want to add some of my TDS creative transfers. This set is called Floral Estates, and I'm going to just use the birds sitting on this branch right here. It's literally going to fit in here perfectly. I may have to touch up the edges, but we'll get there when we get there. First up, we can't just have the plate plain. I can't have that. Now, I did take it upstairs, give it a nice washy wash, and then dried it off and grabbed one of my TDS Creative Decoupaged tissue paper sheets. This piece is called Scripts, and as you can see, I've already got some holes in this sucker. So I then went and found some other spaces on the paper that I wanted to just trim out. And I used my finger to just kind of go around and then came back in with a pair of scissors to trim it down as precisely as I could to fit the center. For our application, we're just going to use some good old Mod Podge here and take my TDS Creative fan brush and put a nice little layer right on in the center of our piece. When I was happy with that, I grabbed the little tissue paper section that we cut out and my water bottle and gave the back of that paper a little spritzy spritz. Now, you do not have to spray your decoupage tissue paper if you don't want to. You can apply it dry. Either way, you're going to be able to decoupage your piece. And to start off, I just use my fingers, y'all. I just use my fingers, a little tappity tap tap tap, and a little smush in to apply the piece. Now, there was a little bit of Mod Podge underneath of there, and I felt that there was some wrinkling. So instead of grabbing some cling wrap, my new love is to grab a Ziploc bag. I know, people, listen, hear me out, okay? The cling wrap for me, since it's in a ball, it usually gets sticky and I have issues with it. I find that if I keep trying to smooth sections out, it sometimes will peel up my decoupage because it gets that medium all over it. And I love using my sponge method, but sometimes there's wrinkling. I don't mind that, but I didn't want any with this. This bag really helps me to be able to use my fingers and just rub the paper as much as I want without tearing it. And I can tell when it starts to get saturated, you can see it on the bag, and I'll just use a different section of the bag. Once this dried, I put another layer of Mod Podge on it and then came on in with some Ivory Waverly chalk paint to go around the edge. Initially, people, I was going to leave this just like it is, but then I decided to let it sit overnight, and of course my brain, it got to braining. And then I did a live on Whatnot and decided to decoupage the rest of the plate. And people, I'm really glad I did. I really love how this kind of tied the whole piece in. I made sure to put another layer of Mod Podge on the outside as well, and then let everything dry. Whenever you're going to put transfers, you want to make sure you have a sealer over your piece and it's completely dry, or you've allowed your paint to dry. So this way transfers don't come back up off of your piece. And as you can see here, these peeled off flawlessly. I added some extras around the edges, and I didn't want to put any nautical rope around to blend anything in where the decoupage paper was. So I came on in with some antique Waverly wax, and I did a light dusting all around our piece. I tied in that branch on the edge so it looks like it goes all the way to the ends of the sides of the plate with a little bit of paint, and then decided to come on in with a sealer once those little paint sections and that wax was all dry. Use whatever sealer you would like. I applied 2 very thin coats of the big top on this piece and allowed the first coat to dry for about 3 hours before I applied the second one. Now, people, I was going to add a hanger onto the back of this and put it on the wall, but I felt like it looked so great sitting on my shelf that I have behind me for staging and decided to keep it right there. I am always a sucker for cute little shelves whenever I see them at the thrift store, especially if they're wood and especially if they're under $5. This little joint was $2.99. Now it had several layers of paint on it, dust and whatever that is. And it was sticky too. I'm just telling y'all. Okay, because you can't obviously feel it. So we got to clean it, right? We can't just leave it like this. We got to give it a scrub down. So I took it upstairs and I did just that. And I mean, it cleaned up pretty well. That stuff though, I did have to scrubbity scrub that spot for a hot minute and the green stuff came off. I really want to go weathered with this piece for the idea that I have, and that's just to add a little piece of my TDS Creative rice paper on the top section. There were a bunch of cute little pieces to pick from, but I just went with the top left corner on this idea. Just trimmed it down to size using a little bit of water. You can take this idea and remix it and use whatever you would like. Napkin, you can decoupage whatever onto the top of your piece. Just frayed around the edges so this way mine will blend well. And I planned on sanding it down around the edges anyhow. I did take the shelf outside and give it really light sanding so this way my paint would stick to the piece, and I made sure to dust off any excess of the sand bits so I didn't have any issues with that. I didn't have a cream color that I was looking for the base of this, so I mixed a little bit of my Waverly chalk with some brown. Again, I want it to go with weathered, and a lot of times when I do stuff like this and I'll post reels or whatever, people will comment, all that for this? Yes, all that for this, because it's weathered and it takes a variation of a multitude of colors and brush strokes to get it to look like that. So this is our first base. Then once that was dry, I grabbed my Mod Podge, okay, good old Mod Podge, use whatever medium you would like, and I grabbed my TDS fan brush, applied a layer of the Mod Podge on there, and then sprayed a little bit of water on the back of the rice paper. You do not have to do that if you don't want to. You could absolutely apply the rice paper dry. I find that this just helps expand those fibers and it allows you to get a really flawless connection between your rice paper, your project piece, and using your medium. You can also use whatever you would like to press down your piece. I just use my fingers. Once that dried, it was time for our second layering, okay? And I'm using Antique Waverly wax and a dry cut up little piece of kitchen sponge. Just tappity tap tap tapping all over the piece. You can use brown paint if you don't have Antique Waverly wax. Just allow this to dry before you go sand it down. Okay, I took this out back and sanded it down once it was all dry, and I love how it's getting there. It's completely getting there. We got that weathered feel going on. Okay, we got that nice base. We got that brown going on. I'm making sure to use a damp cloth to get any excess off. I made sure to sand down really well where the edge of that rice paper is, so this way there wasn't no raised section, so we could then paint over it and it would just have a flawless blend on the top there. You're going to want to make sure that your decoupage is extremely dry and adhered to your surface before you go sanding it down, because you can shred the whole piece completely up. For our next step, I added some of that ivory chalk paint all over the piece, just little dry brushing with our chippy brush, allowed that to dry, and then come on in with a light dusting of more of that Antique Waverly wax all over the piece. And then I put some stamp script sections all over the top to blend in with the decoupage. I absolutely adore the way that this weathered piece turned out. It could go a little cottagecore, it could go rustic. That rice paper is blended flawlessly on the top of there, and I love how those pops of color just give you a whole different feel when you look at this little shelf. We are probably about to upcycle one of the most unconventional things I've ever found at a thrift store. Laminate floor towels. I know. Let me explain something to you people. Just hold on a minute and roll on with me, okay? We're going to turn these into little wall hanging glass propagation stations, okay? Just give me a second or 2 to 3 minutes and it'll make sense. First, we're going to break off all the excess that makes it actually look like flooring. So now it just looks like we got a piece of wood as a backing. Then I'm going to grab one of my TDS Creative transfer sets. This is called Floral Estates. I'm going to cut out a few sections. Use whatever transfers you want. Use whatever stickers you would like, or even use a stencil. Take this idea and remix it with your laminate flooring. Now I place the transfers in the sections that I put them in, so I could put 2 of the little glass pieces in different sections on here. Now to do that, we needed to take a trip on over to Dollar Tree and grab some of their teeny tiny little glass pieces. Now on this particular day, my Dollar Tree had 2 different options for us to choose from. And of course, while I was there, I couldn't make life decisions. So I had to buy one of each and one of these, because we might have needed these too. You know what I'm saying? We can't be missing out. I'll go there next week and they won't be there. And then I'll be mad at myself because I can't go back in time and buy them when I should have. You know what I'm saying? Anyhow, I took a minute grabbing each one, you know, sizing it. Like, will this work in these spaces that I done put these transfers on here and can't take it back? Unfortunately, didn't all work out like I wanted to, but we had to carry on. And I grabbed my little Gorilla Glue gel things. Now I usually use these for feet on my coasters. I forget the exact name and I done threw away the package, but I picked them up at Home Depot. Put them on the back in each corner, so this way it hung evenly once I put it on the doors. And today, y'all people, you're getting to experience me using my crocodile for the first time. Okay, I think that's what this is called. I don't know. I seen a crafter using it one day and I felt I needed it. And guess who didn't need it? Because we've never used it. It's been collecting dust, okay? Sometimes you think you see somebody using something. You might see me right now using this like, I need it, Brandy. But are you going to use this hole punching thing on rubber or like wood? Because if you're not, I can promise you, you're wasting your money. Anyhow, it worked like a gem. I was super excited that it had its moment and it shined magically, okay? Look at all my holes. Next, we're going to grab some copper wire. I picked this up from Walmart. Okay, it was a couple dollars. We're going to use just a little bit, about 6 inches or so. I mean, really, cut whatever size you want. Okay, I'm eyeballing it. Looks about 6 inches. I'm going to use my little metal cutting shears. Okay, I picked these up from Hobby Lobby. A lot of people will ask about them shears. Like, Brandy, where'd I get them? Hobby Lobby. I don't know where. I've never seen them anywhere else. That's the only spot I've ever seen those joints. Now I'm taking the wire and I am putting it around the rim of these little glass pieces, doing a little twisty twist, and then we're going to mush it through the single holes that we placed on our pieces, okay? And then I'm just going to put one to each side. And I mean, I'm not recreating anything, you know, that y'all ain't seen around this joint. We're going to trim that down. Then I'm going to grab some masking tape. If you want to glue it down, you go right ahead, but I wanted the freedom to be able to switch this out. So I just put some masking tape to hold it in place. So this way, as I put anything in there, if I put my water in there, wasn't going to tip, you know what I'm saying? And I only used the 2 glass bottles from Dollar Tree that were the same shape. I used the smaller ones and the longer ones. For the hanging piece, I just used some nautical rope. You guys could absolutely use whatever you like. And then I did put little sticky cup suction things on the door for these to hang in the kitchen. Now I could have transformed these little laminate floor pieces into just about anything, especially since they had that wood background. But I wanted to have y'all stepping outside the box with me just a little bit. So if you ever see some wood laminate tile out at the thrift stores, y'all have trouble walking past it and wonder just how creative you can get with yours. If you're looking for more $5 and under upcycling ideas for your next project, check out this video right here. And as always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time.